Thanks for agreeing to talk at the winter school. So I'll give you a brief intro. So Prashant Gokharan is the co-founder and CEO of DigiAsia. He was also the co-founder and CEO/COO of Indosat, the second largest telco in Indonesia. Prashant is also an advisor on TMT to a consulting firm, TMT advisor to Arthur D. Little, to a tower company, and to a leading OEM with factories in China. He also has a couple of investments in core technologies, Cutting Chai, where he's a founder investor, and a robotics and AI company in Taiwan and Japan, QBIT Robotics. Prashant, it's great to have you talk. So please go ahead and.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks so much. I hope I am I'm visible at least. I'm sitting in my balcony. I could have done, I had previously told Kaushik I'll be out, but I managed to move that.
Yes, Prashant, we can see and hear you well.
Oh, lovely. Thanks so much. So first, thanks a lot. I have had a bit of a hiatus from IEEE. I was a student member during my years in IIT Kharagpur, and it is, and I'm going back many, many years now, and it is quite amazing that, to be reconnected with IEEE after so many years. So I thank Kaushik for making the introduction, and to Rajesh to give me the opportunity, and the other organizers at IEEE and IIT Kanpur to give me this opportunity to actually speak with all of you. So I've had an amazing last couple of days listening to some of the sessions, and I've heard and I've learned a lot about what edge computing and fog is. And what I thought the area maybe I could add some value in is because I'm sure there are many in the audience who may have brilliant ideas, and some of them I hope would be looking at moving to a stage where they take those ideas into an execution form. And one of the most critical things to make an idea succeed is money. And whether we like it or not, money is what will determine the failure or success of a brilliant idea. And what I thought I would do is talk about my own personal experience of having an idea and taking a few years around the theme which Anurag mentioned on the previous page, which is financial inclusion, but taking that idea and converting that into what I hope anyway would be a successful business opportunity. So I've been running this company with my co-founder, who was my boss at Indosat. It's a leading Southeast Asian B2B fintech platform, and we have presence in 4 countries in Southeast Asia at the moment. So Kaushik, which slide are you on? Because
I'm on the title slide. You want me to move to the first one?
Yes, please, if you could.
Okay, first slide.
Okay, so why should you guys listen to me? Primarily, I am targeting those of you who in the audience would have some interest in taking your brilliant ideas, either yourselves or with your friends, to execution. And I have been on both sides of the investing table. So I have for many years been on the side which gives the money. So that's where I set up the point, which is number 3, which is where I set up a venture capital fund with SoftBank, and we made some early stage successful investments. For example, Grab, which is like the Uber of Southeast Asia. We were very early investors. We were investors in a company called Presentation is Not Visible Clearly. That is true, Kaushik. Because I can see half of my slides. I'm wondering if I'm the only one.
Okay, let me see. How about now?
If you can just put it on slide share mode, I think it'll be easier. Oh, sorry, on full slide mode, the presentation mode.
How about now? Is it visible now?
At least not to me. I'm considering only half, but I'm not sure the other.
Half is white and half part with the scroller of all the slides.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can make it big and. Yeah, Anurag. Rajesh, you also have these.
Now it's much better.
Kaushik,
Yes,
I think it's fine. Don't maximize your screen. It should be fine.
Yes,
Okay.
now it's good.
It's good now. Yeah,
it's good now. Yes, okay. So thanks. So basically, I thought I'll just talk about my own personal experience, both from a point of view where I have been seeking money from from various investors over the last 3 years. We've raised about 70 million US dollars in the last 3 years into my company, but also from the side previously where I was a founder of a corporate venture capital fund, plus on my own personal capacity where I made some investments. So I thought maybe I'll use that as a perspective. Plus in the earlier chats today, as well as yesterday, a fair degree of the drive of fog and edge computing comes from telcos, where I've spent very many years, probably too many years, and some of those years were with Kaushik. So Kaushik and I share that background from them. So Kaushik, if you can move on to the second slide. What I thought I will talk about here, again, giving a few examples and maybe stories, is what do investors want to see when they put either their own money, if they are angel early stage investors, or put money from the funds they work with into companies. And I thought sometimes the rules are a little bit different from for so-called successful serial entrepreneurs versus first-time entrepreneurs. And I thought maybe on the if you look at the audience here, probably most of the folks would fall in the category, of at least those who are looking at taking their ideas to execution, would fall in the category of first-time entrepreneurs, like I have been for the last 3.5 years. So I thought maybe I'll talk about it. Also, from my own experience as an investor, I've seen that the first stage entrepreneurs are those who primarily back their business idea on their own concepts and a very strong belief in what they want to do, whereas the serial entrepreneurs basically go with their execution capability. So given that we are in a stage where it's early for fog computing, I think the ideas stage would probably, I hope, help some of the first-time entrepreneurs. So of course, there are so many criteria, but I thought I would distill the top 3 criteria from a perspective of tech investment, which I hope somebody, sorry?
Prashant, there's a lot of so microphone, maybe you just need to come forward a little bit so you can avoid the wind because the microphone.
Okay. It's surprising that the wind is suddenly coming up. Static because of wind. Okay. Hopefully it will die down. Otherwise, I will move without a chair to another spot where I hope the wind will. Actually, give me a second. Let me just walk over.
Now it's better. Now it's fine.
Yeah, is it better? Yeah. So I have moved from a part which was actually not windy when we started, and suddenly the wind seems to have changed in direction. Yeah. So let me stand up and talk about it. Yeah. So first thing which investors would typically look at is the team. And from my experience, I've seen there are 2 or 3 areas which stand out in the team, especially for first stage or first time entrepreneurs. And the one is the number of entrepreneurs, or number of founders who have come together to set up the team. And whilst there are obviously lots of exceptions, in most cases, investors are a little wary of single founder companies, early stage companies. There are multiple reasons. There could be physical reasons. For example, what if the founder were to fall ill? But also because, mainly because, when times are difficult, and every entrepreneur goes through difficult journeys, when there is a team of more than one, each can sort of support each other in those difficult periods. On the other hand, so basically, Alex and I have had, in my company, there are 2 of us who are co-founders. Alex was the CEO of Indosat, the second largest telco in Indonesia, and I was reporting into him running operations, so the CEO. So the 2 of us started this together, and we've seen that as one benefit. In my days of early stage investing, there was a company we invested in which had 7 founders, and a big issue came up where there was frankly too much of democracy, which pulled the company in multiple directions, and eventually there started to be fights in the founder team, and our investment was a failure. And I also talked to some of my other friends who have been investing, and having too many founders in the investment team sometimes, in the founding team, sometimes causes problems. The other point which for us has not worked out. When I say not worked out, I would say that sometimes people have the question. Alex and I both come from an operations background. And whilst we are running a tech company, the tech talent has been recruited as opposed to being from the founding team. And for those of you who are looking to get in this journey, having all tech people in the founding team raises questions about focus on costs and some execution points. But having no tech person on the founding team has issues about, are these guys basically running on hot air, and is there really some strong basis to the evaluations they seek? So from my experience, I say, those of you who are looking to get into a company, creating a company, have friends who you've worked with. Obviously, do not try doing this alone, because entrepreneurship can be a very lonely journey. That's number one. And number two is, try to have a mix of talents in the team. The second point, which I have seen, which has benefited us, but also has benefited some of the other companies which we work with, is have a strong existing backer very early on. So in our case, of course, today we have a strong strategic partner in MasterCard, but also very early on when we started, we got one of the local banks in Indonesia to support us, and we got one of the largest retail chains in Indonesia to support us with the payment business. So so we've seen that work. I was helping a friend of mine, or have been helping a friend of mine raise capital in the Middle East. So it is a company which sources IP from in the AI space from leading companies across the world, and they have and they have that benefit, but there is no strong existing backer to it. Although they have emails showing interest, but no signed contract. And I think the last 3 months, we, especially given the I guess the COVID situation, we have struggled to actually raise capital into them. And most of the questions come about is, do you really have visibility of revenues going forward? And as you come in, have some money which you have raised from friends and family who will base it purely on who you are, and then use that money to get revenue contracts onto the platform before you seek professional investment. The third point I thought I would bring in, and this is I'm seeing particularly keen now, where a lot of money is chasing very few targets, which means that there are so many early stage companies who are floundering for cash, despite being so much, despite there being so much of cash in the system. Somehow it seems to be chasing very few targets. And that is mainly around, when you look at tech consulting or tech investment, it is those who are focused on primarily on hardware, or where hardware is a strong basis for growth. They are going to struggle, because the question comes, when there's hardware, there are issues about capital required, there are issues about who will manage the supply chain, there are sourcing issues, and of course, if there is no strong China element to it, then there is this whole thing that that the Chinese can come and bring the prices down or improve the quality so much that the company will suffer. So do have a software-based scalable model in your investment. Kaushik, if you can please go to the next slide. Specifically on fog, and here there are two companies which I am very closely involved with, both of which I am a founder investor in. One of them I was also a co-founder. One is a beacon company out of India. It was initially called Cutting Chai, which was around the concept of using edge computing and edge or beacon technology to share bandwidth. Of course, then bandwidth prices fell so fast with the advent of Jio and others in India that model changed completely. And today, what we do is offer hyper-local beacon tech, where the phone becomes a beacon. So using a combination of Bluetooth, Wi-Fi direct, and of course the GPS coordinates to give really hyper-local information for B2B customers using an SDK platform. So I'll talk about that. And the other one is an ad tech company which is based out of Florida, which uses the capability on handsets, both online and offline, to provide some form of, I guess, there's edge computing AI, which does not reside on the cloud, to provide the kind of ads delivered on the phone. So on the left in green is an understanding of talking to friends and my own experience of what I think will be easier to attract investment into edge computing and fog. And on the right, I've put in some points which are which are best to avoid. I'll just pinch this out. Okay. So first, I think is similar to the to a point I made in the previous slide about having a strong strategic backer, and the point here is to work with a large company as you scale up versus a situation where an investor questions whether the large companies will outspend you. So in the case of Inventa or Cutting Chair, the Beacon technology, they or we have been pretty successful in getting a very strong, very large diversified group called Tata in India to support it. So the tech is used at Starbucks and is used at their West Side, their retail chain. So basically, what the tech does, it's an SDK on the client app. So as you go past an aisle in West Side, it gives you and you on the app, it gives you a specific voucher promotion, which is only a few feet away from you. It can be as little as 2 feet to a maximum of 8 feet away from you, so that you're not in the completely other end of the mall. Where you get where you get the promotion. So there's much higher take rate on the promotion said, and that again comes. I think the benefit to the company has been the strong relationship with the Tata Group. The second, and this I talked about the whole Inventa Cutting Chai initial case, but also some of the other companies which I've seen is that the market can change very fast. And if you go back about 2 or 3 years, the main driver to edge computing was that you're going to drastically bring down costs. Bandwidth is not supporting a great use case where video needs to be delivered from a cloud and so on. Latency is very high. So as you've seen, that with 4G has becoming ubiquitous across the world, including in developing markets. Bandwidth costs have come down, bandwidth capacity has increased. Of course, in some markets like India, it's not increased very much, and the latency has come down. With the 5G coming in, you can see that going down even more. So as edge computing companies seek to take investment, they have to strongly embrace this, that going forward, it is not going to be a story which is built primarily around bandwidth and latency. There have to be other drivers to attract investment. The third point, which I think Anurag, of course, made in the previous talk, is how do you work even in locations where the network is out or is not present or is of poor quality. And I think this is one big opportunity, which at least in some of the presentations I have seen from companies pitching to investors, they seem to be missing this big picture out. So there are multiple occasions where you still, in fact, you are, there is such a big opportunity on some use cases where the use case is even stronger, the network is weaker. So I think that is one which some of the new companies have to, in my view, focus on. And of course, hyperlocal obviously goes with the picture. So how do you come up with use cases which will drive take up around the few feet you are in? And I've seen that personally with the Inventa app in terms of how well it's doing. On the right are pretty obvious points. The first one is pretty obvious, which is avoid crowded parts of the value chain. But this, despite being obvious, very often, because companies take a long time to go from an ideation stage to a company stage. By the time they've reached a stage where there is an established product and there is an established revenue stream or a revenue stream which is at least visible, the market has developed so fast and there have been so many companies who have come in that their value chain becomes quite crowded. And then it becomes very difficult for companies to attract investment, and too many of them actually die at this stage, which is in the post-seed, pre-Series A stage. That's first. Second, unless you are, unless you have very deep pockets, or you have a very very high risk appetite, avoid PhD stage research projects. Of course, one of the biggest companies in the world, which is Google, came from that stage. So obviously there are these fantastic exceptions, but in general, companies which are at a very early research stage, they do not succeed in attracting significant investment beyond seed. And number three, of course, is do not ignore a cost-benefit analysis. This comes from my experience at Indosat, the company where I worked for. And we had a large Wi-Fi network. And one of the use cases which was pushed through one of our strong partners was to have video delivery from the Wi-Fi node points. But once we did the cost benefit analysis, it was very clear that the scale of users had to be so high for this investment to make sense. So I would say do not ignore the cost benefit analysis, especially in an environment where the market in terms of hardware costs and bandwidth costs changes quite drastically. So I think I come to the end of my 3 slides, which I've rushed through. I would love to take questions. Before I do, I will go back to thanking Kaushik for enabling me to take part in my very first virtual conference. I never done this ever before, so it's been quite exciting to be a listener, and of course now to actually speak, and of course to IEEE and to the organizers and to Rajesh. So with that, I will finish my presentation, but if any questions, I would love to take those. Thank you.